We are recording. I was doing service catering for a wedding in Malibu one time. It was on a private ranch. It had wide open spaces with amazing vistas. They even had a giraffe named Charles. I was going to be running food back and forth between the makeshift kitchen and the outdoor dining hall where all the guests would sit. Usually at these events there is an even distribution of ethnicities, a pepper and salt shaker affair of all continents, but at this event it was all salt, white Anglo-Saxonites. With careful consideration to those people who those people were, I must admit that the groom was from Australia, so naturally the guest list on his end was representative of the Australian continent, which was all white. The bride was American, and her guest list was all white too. It was a wedding party of about 200 people, and they didn't even have a black friend or an Asian girlfriend married to a white guy for colonial reasons of her own. A salty wedding affair, for sure. And there was something that had shifted in my body language while surrounded by so many white people. It was a heightened awareness, something similar to the way in which one interacts with celebrities the way they interact with celebrities in a cool, distant manner. You don't want to let them know or sense that you know who or what they are. Until I realized these people don't give a shit about me. All they want to know is if there's any more of that shrimp wild rice coming their way. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you. While at this wedding, I began to think of the story of a perverse Hispanic character who gets a thrill and sense of self-importance by being in the company of white people. The heart beats so much faster if this character is touched on the arm by an elderly woman who he's just served braised asparagus to. Oh, how he would run to please them, to make sure that everything they could ever want was available. Spread eagle, no questions, yes sir, and dare I say, no sir. Ultimately, for the concerns of project as a Jaime, I could not in good conscience fabricate such a perversion. The voice wasn't coming from a good or honest place. Instead, I want to share an instance where I felt a shift in my body language because I was surrounded by and serving so many white people at a wedding in Malibu. Whether or not they were oblivious to the discrepancies of diversity of their social circle, I think we can all agree that I'm grateful, and I hope they are grateful too, that they did not play Billy Idol's White Wedding, or that the DJ didn't play Billy Idol's White Wedding that night. So I'm going to open up the roundtable discussion in this situation to another Jaime here. And Jaime, can you tell us about, the sun's in my eyes, the instance can you share a story? You have something you want to share? Go me to tell you a little bit.
Can you share a story?
Yeah, can you share a story
Of
of a moment where you felt so uncomfortable to be around so many white people? Something when you were before San Francisco?
Okay, hold on, let me see. So, I was working at a law firm.
Speak loud.
I was working at a law firm for a long time. I worked there for about 11 years. And in the beginning, it was very embarrassing, I guess. I felt embarrassed to be around there. Like, I always, like, I never got that they saw me as an equal. I always felt myself as I was less than them. And and it took me a while to kind of what do you call that? Assimilate the fact that they saw me as an equal. Because for the longest time, I think, put myself through a lot of hell, thinking that I wasn't supposed to be sitting at the same table where these guys were at, you know, because they were lawyers. And they had a lot of different levels of subservience on my part, you know. Like, my mom was a housekeeper. She was always a housekeeper, and like part of my like being in this country, like as a little kid, I would go clean houses with her, you know, and I would see the pictures of these white people. And as a little kid, I remember thinking, you know what, one day I'm gonna be like these guys. And I'm gonna work in a high-rise in downtown. And I think it carried that throughout, you know. So I got my chance of working at a high-rise in downtown,
Right.
not LA, but at a high-rise in San Francisco, you know, at a law firm, and I had made it there, you know. And but deep down inside, like, there was still this thing that held me back, and you know, I'm not sure, like, I'm answering your question here. I'm not sure that I really am answering your question, but I will say that for me, it was what I had come to know. My mom has always been a servant, you know, as a housekeeper, and like that's what I learned. So I learned to have these relationships with these white people in that way, you know, and I really didn't notice that that was deeply ingrained in me. So I found myself working with so many people, you know, and they weren't just white. There was the majority of the attorneys were white. But, you know, there were legal assistants who were Filipino, who were Asian, you know, and
But they all had like assimilated their own.
you know, I mean, you know, you've assimilated when you yourself can have housekeeper, you know,
Yeah.
and you're really assimilated when you yourself can have a housekeeper that then is like 2 steps away from being your aunt, you know, or something like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's happened, you know, and like at some point, like I remember, like I was living with my partner and stuff, and like we had a roommate, and like we had discussions all the time of like maybe getting his sister, who was an immigrant, to come and clean the house, and it always felt so surreal, you know, because I was like, okay, like here's my somewhat sister-in-law, like gonna come clean the house. One, because she needs to, and two, but it just, you know, and like, am I answering your question? I'm not
Yeah.
that all
No.
sure,
Yeah. No.
like,
No. Yeah. This is all it.
And
This
then,
is it.
but the thing that, like, for me, I'm not sure that it came. I mean, there's many instances when I found myself like feeling odd because I wasn't who I thought I was supposed to be. I wasn't who I was, you know, representing myself to be, something like that. Because I always felt like, okay, I was the son of my mom, and my mom was a servant, and I should remain in that position. So partly when I started working and I got my name on that,
Yeah, an office. Yeah.
on an office, and I got my name on the door of the office. You know, for me it was a proud moment, and I brought my mom, like when she lived in San Francisco, I made sure to bring it to the office and to show her the view from the office of San Francisco Bay, and then show her like, hey, look, and it was like the phoenix of like my existence. Like I was not the phoenix, but it was the
Proud
yeah,
moment.
no, the top. It was the height.
Pinnacle.
The pinnacle. There you go. The pinnacle of what I had achieved. You know, as an immigrant, and yet I still felt inadequate, and I still felt like my opinions, my voice, still wasn't as strong or as real as anybody else's. You know, and then there was the part of like, well, I hadn't gone to Harvard, I hadn't gone to Yale, I hadn't gone to Berkeley, or even like Stanford, like some of my peers had, you know. It took me a while to really understand that, you know what, it was all in me. Like all these different scenarios of me feeling less than was all in me. And you know, it does exist though. People do see you sometimes as less than, but mostly I think it starts with you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Completely. Yeah. Completely. Just one last question. What is your relationship now when you look back at the relationship you had to those high-rise buildings and where you are now in relation to those buildings? Just if you can talk about that feeling, the aspiration you had then, what you achieved, and considering everything you felt. ¿Qué pasó? No, está bien, gracias.
Good.
No, man, I'm good.
No tenemos carro, gracias.
Está bien. Can you talk about that contrast of like when you wanted to reach those high rises, you know, be in those high rises, and now, and talk about your relationship to them.
High rises have always been like.
As a Jaime that builds them, you know, like also would hypothetically, but yes.
As a Jaime that builds them?
As a Jaime that helps build the high rises.
Well, I think you can build high rises in a lot of different ways, you know? And like, I think as a community we help build high rises, and like for me, it's important. High rises are important because I'm all in the American way where like high rises epitomize the power of whatever, you know, whoever has the highest building, whoever has the highest building. I was once taught in school that whoever has the tallest building is the tallest. You know, those are the ones. Fine, but like that, those are the ones with power, you know. And like, if you look at you know, colonial times, the church building always had the tallest like steeple. You know?
Yeah.
The church with the tallest bell. That's the one who was in power. And then all of a sudden, you come into our age, and it's, you know, is it Chase or Bank of America, or is it Wells Fargo with the tallest building? You know, and for a long time it was Sears Roebuck. You know, so I became enamored of like tall buildings. When I moved to the United States.
You became enamored of tall buildings in the United States. Okay.
Well, when I got here, you know, but then working, like going to these places where my mom worked. You know, and the truth is, I never even knew where these people worked. You know, I don't know if they worked fucking on the beach like every day, just, you know, writing emails. I don't know what they did. I don't really have no idea. But it's what always strikes me funny is that we build our own stories in our heads, and then we like, I myself built this whole scenario built around that. You know, I don't know where these people worked in reality. Like, if I really think about it, I don't know.
Like, what's in those buildings?
Like,
really,
you know, but I didn't know like where the hell they worked at. But in my mind, they worked in downtown because that's where I saw the power. That's where I saw people who like had economic freedom, who had, you know, who weren't us. That's where I saw them working. You know, and that's where I like kind of formulated my life to go, you know, and like, as long as I was working downtown, no matter what else was going on in my life, I was working downtown. I had succeeded. I had built something in my life, and I had built that building, you know. I had helped build that building, at least for my own family. I was a part of that building now, you know.
Yeah.
Of that high rise, you know, and yeah, the question. What was it?
No. That's good. I was asking about your relationship to buildings then and now, to high rises then and now.
So that's right. So what I was gonna say was, you know, there's something to be said about like, and so for me, right, I always try to connect things to things I've learned or things that I've experienced or things that I've heard. Right? So at some point, I remember like somebody telling me, or maybe it's a truth of some kind, that, you know, once you reach a goal, like you better know where to go next or what's your next goal. Otherwise, you're gonna feel lost. You know?
Yeah.
And I kind of did get lost after I finally reached that goal of having my name on the, you know, on the door of that high rise. You know, because it was, whether it was the fact that that I had achieved something or not. Like, I, in my mind, had gotten to where I was supposed to be as an immigrant here. You know, and then after that, I kind of like, I did find myself like, and what now? You know, like, so where do I go from here? Like, okay, I've achieved this. Like, I achieved it. Like, Mom, here's your here's your reward for having brought me here. Here's your reward.
Yeah, yeah.
And I never got to show it to my dad. That's a whole different story, but I got to show it to my mom. Like, it's in my heart, you know, and but there's something to be said for, like, there was a little bit of loss and there was a little bit of losing myself after that, you know. I had always had a purpose. Like, my purpose, whether real or not, had been to, like, get into a high building and get my name on the door, because that's what I had found to be success. In my little mind, I had found, like, that was going to be success. And then once I was there, I was like, and what now, you know? And,
Do you feel like you were consciously pursuing that in your day-to-day, like, name on the building, name on the door, name on the door, name on the door? Like, is that something that just happened and you felt like I've arrived, or were you pursuing that throughout?
I think maybe subconsciously I was pursuing that. I was pursuing that. I'm not sure that it was so conscious that I knew, but maybe a little bit, you know. Because
you're aware of the career.
Downtown. I mean, I was aware of the careers. I was aware of the career path. I was aware of the hey, you go to college, you get a good job after college, and you start working at a high rise, you know, and like. But for me, it didn't necessarily happen like that, you know, because I didn't go to college. I didn't go. I went to one of these schools that you pay money and you go 2 years, and you know, I went to one of those, you know.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even for law; it was for medical, you know. So, but that was what prompted me. That was what got me to work in the law firm. To, you know, however I got there doesn't matter, right? Now I can see it doesn't matter, but then it sort of did, because I hadn't gotten there through what I had told my moms, and I didn't get there through Berkeley, or I didn't get there through Stanford, you know, not UCLA. I got there through like some school I had to pay, you know. So it was kind of weird. So I think it was a surreal thing I was kind of aiming for, that I wasn't sure I was going to be able to get. But when I did, then I was still lost, because I was like, okay, well, even though I didn't really believe it to be, it was going to be true, because it hadn't happened the way it was supposed to happen, I'm still here. I still made it. You know, kind of like we were saying earlier, like for Latinos, for men, like how, you know, you can still make it, and we don't have to have it. And then that's the little shift in me that I never let sink in. That, you know what, you can still be successful and not have the Berkeley diploma.
Yeah.
You can still be successful and not have gone one day of a university education, you know. And that's where like it kind of like became this sore thing for me, you know. And that's why, going back to the original thing, I always would feel uncomfortable when I would like be sitting in these like meetings, you know, or like that sometimes all these attorneys and all these legal assistants would be, and then, you know, where I was like called on, and like I was called on, and people really did want to hear what I had to say. People really, like, you know what, I was always floored when people like would ask me a question, and I would be like, you really care about what I think? Really, like you're not kidding, like you really want to know what I think? Oh well, you know. And like I was always like wow, okay, like, you know, I don't know if I can like,
no, yeah,
you
make, yeah,
it's you know, it's kind of like,
yeah. Gracias. Voy pasando.
I don't know, am I epitomizing what I'm supposed to be doing? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing?
Never epitomizing. They're just being in it. So yeah, no,
yeah,
you're fine.
I like that word, epitomize.
Epitomizing is like,
I know
like,
what epitomizing is.
like fucking. That is it. That is the finale, and that's never the thing here for me. Like, that's a definitive.
I like that word.
To epitomize.
I like epitomize.
But it's always so much more complex than epitomizing.
No, but I like to epitomize anything like that.
You do?
I guess that's what I'm like too.
Well,
that's not part of this conversation.
Well, it's already been recorded, so it's fine.
Oh, you
so,
cut it out.
No, I don't cut things out. But I probably will, I don't know. But I don't cut things out usually. Okay. Look at the birds. Let's just watch the birds and then we'll cut it, I guess.
But